I have a copy of a book from 1934, the year it was published, that belonged to my husband's grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, which in a moment you can all have a look at.
In a shocking turn of events, Queen Camilla has found herself banned from Buckingham Palace after a devastating slip-up.
I can't mimic voices for love or money. I'm completely hopeless at it. I was a really bad actress.
During a private conversation, she accidentally revealed a secret that could change the monarchy forever.
I can be. I'm as independent as I want to be, and same as Catherine and Harry. We've all grown up, differently to our other generations, and I very much feel if I can do it myself, I want to do it myself. And there are times when you can't do it yourself, and
the confession was so unexpected, it left everyone in utter disbelief, an unthinkable breach that no one saw coming. Now, whispers are circulating, and the palace is in turmoil. What exactly did Camilla confess? Stay tuned, because this royal scandal is far from over. In the midst of a quiet revolution within the British monarchy, Princess Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, took a step that would quietly reshape the future of the royal family. It wasn't in a grand speech or a flashy appearance, but in a small personal gesture that went unnoticed by the public at first, but would have far-reaching implications. On a calm morning, Catherine entered the royal vault at Windsor Castle, where many of the monarchy's most precious artifacts are kept. This vault, a place filled with centuries of history, would become the setting for a pivotal moment in royal history. Inside the vault, Catherine arranged items connected to Princess Diana, ensuring that the late princess's legacy would be preserved. Among these items were some of the most iconic pieces from Diana's collection, including the Spencer choker and the sapphire brooch, which had been gifted to her by the Qatari royal family in the 1980s. These items, once symbols of Diana's personal connection to the royal family, would now be secured for future generations. Catherine's actions were not driven by a desire for attention. She did not seek a crowd or a platform for her deeds. Instead, she took quiet, deliberate steps to ensure that Diana's memory and legacy would be protected. As she carefully placed each item in the vault, Catherine did something more. She added one final personal touch, a handwritten letter. The letter, written for her daughter, Princess Charlotte, was a message of love, strength, and remembrance. It was a message to ensure that Charlotte would one day know the depth of her grandmother's influence and the importance of the royal legacy she was born into. It wasn't an announcement to the world, but a message that would one day be received by Charlotte, perhaps years from now, as a reminder of who she was, who her family was, and what they stood for. At that moment, Catherine did not need the fanfare that often surrounds royal acts. Her gesture, though simple, had more weight than any public speech. It was a quiet, understated act that reflected the values she had come to embody during her time in the royal family: strength, grace, and a commitment to history. The simple act of securing Diana's heirlooms was a profound statement. Catherine had become more than just a figurehead. She had become a custodian of the monarchy's legacy. The impact of this moment would be felt far beyond the royal vault. As photos of Catherine and Charlotte emerged, showing them together in a tender and graceful moment, the public began to take notice. Catherine's influence, already growing since her marriage to Prince William, was now undeniable. Her public image had shifted, and she was no longer just the wife of the future king, but a figure in her own right, one who was becoming synonymous with dignity and leadership. These images were not flashy or attention-grabbing, but they resonated deeply with the British public and beyond. The photos of Catherine and Charlotte, standing together in solidarity, began to circulate widely, drawing attention to the quiet strength that Catherine was now embodying. In a world where royalty is often expected to make bold moves and speak out in public forums, Catherine's approach stood in stark contrast. She didn't need to speak loudly or make grand gestures. Her actions spoke for themselves, and the public took note. The quiet dignity of Catherine's gestures, her commitment to preserving the monarchy's history, and her unwavering poise in the face of mounting pressure made her a figure that the British people could rally around. Social media exploded with support for Catherine. Within hours, millions of people had shared the images of Catherine and Charlotte. The hashtags #legacy secured and #Catherine. The Great began trending, signifying a shift in the public's perception of the royal family. For years, Catherine had been admired for her poise, her grace, and her ability to maintain a sense of normalcy in a life that was anything but. But now, she was being recognized for something much more significant. Catherine was seen as the future of the monarchy, not just as a consort, but as a potential leader in her own right. The public's growing affection for Catherine was not just based on her appearance or her role as a mother. It was rooted in something deeper, a sense that she was the embodiment of the values that the British royal family was meant to represent. As the monarchy faced its most significant challenges in years, Catherine was emerging as a stabilizing force. She was someone who could both uphold the legacy of the past and ensure the monarchy's future, without the need for fanfare or political maneuvering. In many ways, Catherine had become the future queen consort that the British public could feel proud of, and even look to for reassurance during a turbulent period. The images of Catherine and Charlotte were more than just heartwarming snapshots of a mother and daughter. They were a symbol of continuity, of the future of the royal family. The quiet strength that Catherine displayed in the vault at Windsor was mirrored in her public persona. She was not just a figurehead, but someone who was quietly reshaping the monarchy's direction. And as her popularity grew, so did her influence within the royal family. The impact of Catherine's actions would soon be felt on a much larger scale. The royal family had always been a symbol of tradition and continuity, but with the growing pressure on the monarchy, it needed someone who could embody both the old and the new. Catherine's quiet leadership, her unwavering support for her family, and her ability to navigate the complexities of royal life made her the ideal figure to take on this role. As the British public began to rally behind Catherine, it was clear that the monarchy was undergoing a subtle but profound transformation. The winds of change were blowing through Buckingham Palace, and Catherine was at the center of it all. Her commitment to securing Diana's legacy and ensuring the future of the royal family was not just a personal mission, but one that resonated with the British public. In a time of turmoil and scandal, Catherine had become the rock upon which the monarchy could rebuild. The royal family had long relied on its image as a stable, enduring institution. But with Camilla's scandals threatening to undermine the monarchy's credibility, it needed someone who could step up and restore its integrity. That person, it seemed, was Catherine. Her influence was growing, and her actions were sending a clear message. The monarchy would move forward, but it would do so with respect for its past and a commitment to its future. In the coming months, as the fallout from Camilla's betrayal continued to unfold, Catherine would continue to play an increasingly pivotal role in the royal family's future. She had already shown her ability to be a steadying force in times of crisis, and now, as the public's trust in the monarchy began to shift, Catherine was poised to step into a role that would ensure the monarchy's survival. The story of Catherine's rise to prominence within the royal family unfolded in a quiet yet significant way, far from the loud headlines and scandalous rumors that seemed to plague the monarchy. The British public, while deeply invested in the royal family's every move, had watched as Catherine steadily became more than just the wife of Prince William, the future king. Her recent actions, though not loud or publicized in a typical royal sense, spoke volumes. As the monarchy struggled with external pressures and internal turmoil, Catherine's position had solidified, not through grand gestures or political maneuvering, but through an unwavering commitment to her family and the values of the royal institution. The monarchy, like any institution, is built upon its public image. It is a delicate balancing act, especially when scandals and controversies swirl around the royal family. In the midst of these challenges, Catherine had come to represent a figure who embodied everything the royal family was meant to symbolize: dignity, grace, and an unspoken commitment to both tradition and the future. While the British monarchy had weathered countless storms over the centuries, the challenges it faced in the modern era were uniquely complicated, not just by political matters, but by the personal lives of its members. And yet, it was Catherine's quiet strength that began to shine through. The act of securing Diana's legacy within the royal vaults was only the beginning. As the public grew to admire her composure and poise in the face of mounting pressures, Catherine's role within the monarchy evolved. She wasn't just the Duchess of Cambridge anymore. She had become a figurehead, a protector of the monarchy's integrity, and a representative of a new kind of royal leadership. Her unwavering sense of duty made her stand out in ways that even she might not have expected when she first entered the royal fold. But as Catherine's profile grew, so did the difficulties faced by the royal family. One of the most significant challenges the monarchy had to deal with came in the form of Camilla. The public had always been critical of her role within the royal family, but it wasn't until 2025 that her past would come back to haunt her in a very public way. Camilla's history, filled with betrayals and secrets, became an explosive topic as more details of her past were exposed. The phone call from 1993, which had once been a scandalous footnote in royal history, was revisited and brought back into the public eye. As new revelations emerged, the public's disillusionment with Camilla grew. The monarchy, which had once relied on her as a stabilizing force, now found itself distancing itself from her. But while Camilla's reputation crumbled under the weight of these revelations, Catherine's star continued to rise. The monarchy needed someone who could step into the breach and steady the ship, and Catherine, with her calm demeanor and sense of duty, was the one who would lead the charge. As Camilla's secrets became more widely known, the British public began to rally behind Catherine. They saw her as a figure who embodied the royal values of duty and service. They recognized her not just as a mother or a wife, but as someone who was quietly taking on a much larger role in preserving the monarchy. While Catherine's influence grew, the public's opinion of the royal family began to shift. For years, the British people had been divided in their views of the monarchy. The scandals and controversies had made it difficult for them to fully support the institution as a whole. But with Catherine's rise, many began to see the monarchy in a new light. She became the person they could rely on for stability and continuity, and that trust would prove to be crucial in the months ahead. As July 2025 approached, the monarchy was faced with a crisis that no one had fully anticipated. The British press, which had been fixated on the latest revelations surrounding Camilla, began to shift its focus. The headlines that had once been full of criticism and scandal were replaced with messages of support for Catherine. The media, which had always been a double-edged sword for the royal family, began to recognize that Catherine was not just a passive figure in the royal family's narrative. She was a key player in its future. The change in public sentiment was palpable. It wasn't just a matter of royal watchers admiring Catherine from afar. The people of Britain had come to see her as someone who could, and would, lead the monarchy into a new era. It was clear that Catherine had gained the public's trust in a way that very few others could have. She wasn't just a figurehead. She had earned the respect of the people. In the wake of Camilla's fall from grace, Catherine became the monarchy's symbol of renewal. She was the embodiment of a monarchy that could adapt to the changing times while remaining rooted in its traditions. As Catherine's public profile continued to rise, the palace began to make subtle changes to reflect her growing importance. Behind closed doors, discussions were already underway about how to better manage the future of the monarchy. King Charles, though still mourning the loss of his relationship with Camilla, had begun to focus on the future of his family. The royal succession, once an issue left largely untouched, was now becoming a topic of much greater concern. The public's trust in the monarchy had always been fragile, and the past mistakes of family members could no longer be ignored. It was time for a change, and Catherine was now seen as the key figure in that transformation. Catherine's role within the royal family was evolving at a rapid pace. As her influence grew, so too did her responsibilities. The public had come to recognize that she was not just the mother of future monarchs, but a capable leader in her own right. The days of the passive royal consort were long gone, and Catherine was at the forefront of the monarchy's transformation. Her quiet strength and dignity were an antidote to the chaos that had plagued the royal family for years. But it wasn't just her actions that were propelling Catherine to the forefront. Her natural ability to connect with the public, her sincere dedication to charity, and her role as a mother all played a significant part in shaping the future of the monarchy. Catherine was no longer just a supportive spouse or a princess. She had become the unspoken pillar of the royal family. The quiet strength she exhibited was contagious, and it inspired a new sense of unity within the palace. By the time July 13, 2025 arrived, the shift in the royal family was undeniable. Catherine and her daughter, Charlotte, quietly visited a charity event in Oxford, where they focused on helping children with reading. There were no grand speeches, no camera flashes, and no media circus. Instead, it was just a simple act of kindness, with Catherine and Charlotte showing their commitment to the future of the next generation. This seemingly small act would have a lasting impact, as the image of Catherine helping a child with their reading spread across the internet. It wasn't just a heartwarming moment, it was a symbol of the monarchy's new direction. The public response to this moment was overwhelming. Within a single day, the image of Catherine and Charlotte garnered over 40 million views. People were drawn to the purity of the moment, and the sincerity of Catherine's actions resonated with the British public. For once, the monarchy wasn't embroiled in scandal or controversy. Instead, it was focused on something positive, something real. The monarchy was not dead. It was being reborn in a new and more relatable form. And Catherine was leading the charge. As Catherine's star continued to rise, Camilla's story continued to unravel. The monarchy had already distanced itself from her, and the media was no longer offering any protection. She had been erased from royal duties, removed from the royal website, and her legacy was slowly being rewritten. In contrast, Catherine's role was solidifying. The public had already made up their minds. Catherine was the future of the monarchy. She was the one who could restore trust in the institution, not through grand gestures, but through the quiet, unwavering strength that had defined her from the start. As the days and months passed, Catherine's influence only grew. The monarchy was being rebuilt, and Catherine was at the center of it all. She wasn't just a symbol of the monarchy's future. She was becoming the foundation upon which that future would be built. The shift was quiet, but it was clear. The monarchy had found its new queen, and her name was Catherine. The period following Camilla's fall from grace marked a significant turning point for the British royal family. With Catherine now emerging as the uncontested figurehead of the monarchy, her influence began to extend far beyond her role as the Duchess of Cambridge. The monarchy, which had been battered by scandals and controversies for years, began to find a sense of direction under her steady leadership. But while Catherine's rise was smooth and steady, it was clear that the road ahead for the royal family was still fraught with challenges. By 2025, the monarchy was at a crossroads. Camilla's scandal had shaken the public's trust in the institution, and many were questioning the future of the royal family. The loss of public confidence was a serious threat to the monarchy's survival, and it was clear that the family needed a figure who could restore that trust. Catherine, with her quiet strength and unwavering dedication, seemed to be the perfect person to take on that role. For years, Catherine had been in the public eye, but it wasn't until the events of 2025 that her true potential began to emerge. Unlike many members of the royal family, Catherine had never been one to seek the spotlight or make waves in the media. She had always been content with a more understated role, supporting her husband and raising their children. But as the monarchy faced a crisis, Catherine began to step up in ways that no one had anticipated. The pivotal moment came in early July 2025, when Catherine made a quiet yet deeply symbolic gesture. She had been entrusted with the responsibility of preserving the legacy of Princess Diana, and in doing so, she was tasked with securing Diana's place in the royal family's history. The act of closing the vault that contained Diana's most cherished items was not just about safeguarding memories. It was about ensuring that Diana's legacy would continue to be a guiding force for the royal family. In that moment, Catherine took on a responsibility that transcended her personal role. She was not just the wife of the future king. She was becoming the keeper of the royal family's history, a role that would come to define her in the years to come. The gesture, though quiet and understated, sent a powerful message to the public. Catherine was no longer just a supporting figure in the royal family. She had become a symbol of its future. The photos that were released following her act, one of her standing confidently before the vault doors and another of Charlotte holding a framed picture of Diana, quickly went viral. The images resonated with millions of people who saw in them not just a royal family performing a public duty, but a family united by love and a shared commitment to preserving the monarchy's legacy. The response to the images was overwhelming. Within days, the #LegacySecured began trending online, and millions of people expressed their admiration for Catherine. The public, which had grown disillusioned with the royal family due to past scandals, began to see Catherine in a new light. She was no longer just the wife of Prince William. She had become the embodiment of a new kind of royal leadership. Her quiet strength, her dedication to family, and her respect for tradition made her the figure the monarchy so desperately needed. As Catherine's popularity soared, the monarchy's reputation began to shift. A survey conducted shortly after the vault closure revealed that 85% of the public believed Catherine should have more influence in royal decisions, and 72% felt that she should be crowned queen in her own right, not just as the spouse of the future king. These figures were a testament to the public's growing trust in Catherine's ability to lead. It was clear that the people were ready for a change, and they saw in Catherine the future of the monarchy. But while Catherine was gaining popularity, the situation surrounding Camilla continued to worsen. The public's disillusionment with Camilla, which had been simmering for years, boiled over in 2025 as new revelations about her past came to light. The infamous phone call from 1993, which had once been a scandalous piece of royal history, was re-examined in the wake of the more recent betrayals. The public, which had once been willing to forgive Camilla for her past indiscretions, now saw her actions as unforgivable. The phone call was no longer seen as a private matter. It was viewed as evidence of a secret affair that had undermined the very foundations of the monarchy. As the scandal surrounding Camilla deepened, more stories began to surface. Whistleblowers from Clarence House, who had remained silent for years, started to speak out about the strange events that had taken place behind closed doors. Missing documents, unrecorded withdrawals, and mysterious changes in the ownership of royal items all came to light. Among the missing items were 2 Victorian brooches and a set of Georgian sapphire cufflinks, which were later traced to an auction in Geneva. The sale had been carried out under fake names, and the transaction had been kept secret. This wasn't just a one-off mistake, it was part of a larger pattern of deception that had been carefully covered up. As these revelations unfolded, Camilla's allies began to distance themselves from her. The royal PR consortium that had managed her image for years silently severed ties, and the publishers who had once been eager to release her memoirs began to have second thoughts. The staff at Clarence House, who had once been fiercely loyal to her, quietly requested reassignment. Even her closest confidants, including her personal assistant and stylist, began to distance themselves from her. The walls around Camilla began to close in, and her position within the royal family became increasingly untenable. But it wasn't just her public life that was unraveling. Camilla's personal life also began to fall apart. Her family members, who had once been eager to support her, withdrew from the public eye and faced their own financial troubles. Auditors began to investigate her children's business ventures, and their bank accounts were frozen. The once glamorous life that Camilla had enjoyed was quickly slipping away, and she found herself increasingly isolated. The most significant blow, however, came from within the monarchy itself. On July 12, 2025, Camilla's profile was silently removed from the royal website. There was no official announcement, no public statement. Her name and image were simply erased from the page that once showcased her as a working royal. The quiet removal of Camilla from the royal website was a powerful statement. It marked the end of her role within the monarchy, and it signaled that the royal family was moving forward without her. As Camilla's influence waned, Catherine's position within the monarchy only grew stronger. Her rise was not based on political maneuvering or public speeches. It was based on her quiet commitment to her family and her dedication to preserving the legacy of the monarchy. The contrast between Catherine and Camilla could not have been more stark. Where Camilla had been mired in scandal and controversy, Catherine had become the symbol of hope and renewal for the royal family. By mid-July, the monarchy had already begun to shift its focus. King Charles, though still mourning the loss of his relationship with Camilla, had begun to recognize that the future of the royal family lay with Catherine. The palace began to make changes behind the scenes, ensuring that Catherine's role was secure. Discussions about the royal succession, which had once been a delicate topic, were now moving forward with the aim of safeguarding Catherine's position. King Charles had been publicly silent about his relationship with Camilla, but those around him could see that he was already preparing for the future. Catherine had become the anchor the royal family needed to weather the storm. As the monarchy continued to navigate these challenges, Catherine's public image only grew stronger. Her presence at a charity event in Oxford, where she and Charlotte were photographed helping children with reading, became a defining moment for the royal family. The photo, which was shared widely on social media, resonated with millions of people. It wasn't just a moment of royal duty, it was a moment of human connection. Catherine, with her warmth and genuine care for others, had become the face of a new era for the monarchy. The public's response to Catherine's actions was overwhelming. Within a single day, the photo garnered millions of views, and the hashtag #HateTheGreat began trending online. The British people, who had once been skeptical of the monarchy, now saw Catherine as the person who could restore their faith in the institution. The monarchy, which had been struggling to maintain its relevance, was now experiencing a resurgence, and Catherine was at the center of it all. As 2025 came to a close, it was clear that the monarchy had been irrevocably changed. The challenges of the past had not been forgotten, but the future seemed brighter. Catherine, once just a duchess, had become the unspoken leader of the royal family. She was the embodiment of the monarchy's future, and the British people had recognized her as such. While Camilla's story was one of scandal and downfall, Catherine's was one of quiet strength and renewal. The monarchy was no longer just a symbol of the past. It had become a beacon of hope for the future, and Catherine was its guiding light. By 2026, the British monarchy was undergoing a significant and profound transformation. This shift wasn't just a change in public perception, but an internal restructuring that reshaped the very fabric of the institution. The collapse of Camilla and the rise of Catherine had dramatically shifted the dynamics within the royal family, and the future seemed to rest squarely in Catherine's hands. She had become not only a central figure in the family, but a symbol of stability, a hope, and progress for the future. However, this transformation didn't come without its challenges. Behind the scenes, the monarchy had to reconcile its past while preparing for the next era. One of the most significant aspects of this transformation was the changing nature of the monarchy's leadership. King Charles, who had always been seen as the figurehead of the monarchy, had started to recognize that the institution's survival no longer depended solely on him. While his reign had been marked by personal challenges, public scandals, and an ever-changing global landscape, the future of the monarchy now lay in the hands of a new generation. Catherine, once just the supportive wife of Prince William, was becoming more than just a consort. She was fast emerging as the key to preserving and strengthening the monarchy for the future. Her strength, grace, and commitment to her family, the monarchy, and the people of the United Kingdom had made her the ideal figure to lead the monarchy into a new era. The events of 2025, particularly her quiet but powerful actions to protect the legacy of Princess Diana, had made it clear to the British people that Catherine had the qualities of a true leader. It wasn't just about the flashy speeches or the headlines. It was about the quiet moments of strength, decisiveness, and compassion that she exhibited behind closed doors. Her actions spoke volumes without the need for grandiose gestures. The vault incident, where she ensured that Diana's legacy was protected and passed on to Charlotte, not only solidified her position within the royal family, but it also reinforced her standing as a woman capable of navigating the pressures of royalty with quiet dignity and unwavering purpose. At the same time, Prince William's role within the royal family was also evolving. For many years, he had been the heir to the throne, but the events of 2025 made it clear that the monarchy could no longer rely on just the king and his heir. The institution had to evolve beyond its traditional roles to meet the demands of a modern world. William, understanding this shift, began preparing for a more active role. He recognized that he could no longer just sit back and wait for his time to reign. Together with Catherine, he began taking on more responsibilities, assuming a more hands-on approach to the family's duties. This teamwork would become a defining feature of their leadership. As Prince William began stepping into more ceremonial duties, the focus shifted toward the future of the monarchy. Both Catherine and William recognized that in order to maintain the monarchy's relevance, they would have to update the institution to align with the times. The monarchy could no longer be a passive institution that merely preserved the past. Instead, it had to be a forward-looking, active presence in the lives of the people. Catherine's involvement in various charitable causes became one of the ways in which she connected with the public, particularly those who might feel disconnected from the royal family. Her charity work, especially with children's education and health, helped cement her place as a compassionate leader who understood the needs of ordinary Britons. But Catherine's influence didn't end with her charitable efforts. She also became a key figure in the royal family's public relations efforts. The monarchy, already struggling with past scandals and media criticisms, needed someone who could repair its image without resorting to empty gestures. Catherine's role as a public figure was crucial to the family's efforts to rebuild its reputation. She understood the importance of being seen as authentic, humble, and approachable. Her actions in the public eye were measured, thoughtful, and deliberate, ensuring that the royal family's image was both positive and consistent with its values. By 2027, Catherine's leadership was unquestioned. She had firmly established herself as not just the wife of the future king, but as a central pillar of the monarchy's future. Her actions in the public eye and behind closed doors had shown her ability to navigate the complexities of royal life with grace and strength. People were no longer just watching her as a supportive consort. They were seeing her as a future queen who had earned the right to lead. Catherine's rise to power was not just about her popularity. It was about her ability to embody the values of the monarchy in a rapidly changing world. Despite her growing influence, Catherine wasn't without her critics. Some still questioned her ability to lead the monarchy, suggesting that her role was still too closely tied to being the wife of Prince William. These critics, however, failed to grasp the full extent of Catherine's capabilities. She had already demonstrated, time and time again, that she was capable of handling the pressures of public life and the responsibilities of royal duties. The question was not whether Catherine could lead, but whether the monarchy, with its centuries-old traditions, was ready to embrace a new form of leadership. As the years passed, it became clear that the monarchy needed Catherine's leadership, and she was more than prepared to provide it. In addition to her growing influence, Prince William began to take on more responsibilities within the family, slowly preparing for his eventual role as king. The events of 2025 had shown him that he could not simply wait for his time to rule. The monarchy was changing, and he needed to be ready to step into a more active role. William's efforts to take on more duties were mirrored by Catherine's increasing prominence. Together, they became a unified front, working side by side to lead the monarchy through its most challenging years. The monarchy's transformation wasn't just about updating its image, it was about ensuring its survival in a rapidly changing world. Catherine and William understood this, and their efforts focused on creating a monarchy that was more transparent, accessible, and relevant to the people. The royal family could no longer rely solely on tradition. It needed to prove that it could adapt to the modern world while retaining the values that made it an important institution. This new vision for the monarchy was not just about appearances. It was about creating a monarchy that could thrive in the 21st century. As 2028 approached, the monarchy's transformation became even clearer. Catherine's leadership was now seen as the key to the future of the institution. She wasn't just playing a supporting role, she was actively shaping the monarchy's future. Her charitable work, her ability to navigate public relations, and her dedication to her family and the British people had made her the most important royal figure of her generation. The British public had embraced her as their future queen, and they were ready to follow her lead. Prince William, too, had prepared himself for the challenges ahead. His role within the family had become more active, and he was taking on more official duties. Together, Catherine and William represented the future of the monarchy, and the public's support for them was growing by the day. The royal family, once fractured and struggling, was now unified and stronger than ever before. But their journey wasn't without opposition. There were still those within the royal family who believed in maintaining the status quo. They resisted the changes that Catherine and William were advocating for, believing that the old ways should remain intact. These traditionalists were reluctant to embrace a more progressive vision for the monarchy. However, the support of the British people was overwhelming. And as the years passed, it became clear that Catherine and William's vision for the future of the monarchy would ultimately prevail. By 2029, the monarchy had undergone a dramatic shift. What had once been an institution struggling with scandal and division was now united under the leadership of Catherine and William. Their efforts to modernize the monarchy had paid off, and the royal family's standing with the British public had been restored. Catherine's rise from a supportive spouse to a central figure in the monarchy was complete, and her leadership had secured the institution's future. This transformation wasn't just about the monarchy surviving, it was about it thriving. Catherine and William's leadership had ensured that the monarchy remained relevant, respected, and cherished by the British people. Their vision for a modern, transparent monarchy had given the royal family a new sense of purpose and direction. The challenges they faced were significant, but they had proven that the monarchy could adapt and evolve to meet the needs of the modern world. As the years continued to unfold, the British monarchy was no longer just about preserving the past. It was about embracing the future. With Catherine and William at the helm, the monarchy had found its new path, one that was rooted in tradition but open to progress. The royal family had been rebuilt, and its future was secure. The changes they brought about weren't just about public image, but were part of a wider cultural shift, one that recognized the monarchy's need to evolve without losing the essence of its history. A new, dynamic leadership had emerged, and Catherine had become a beacon of hope for a monarchy that had been through both scandal and scrutiny. No longer the passive consort, Catherine had taken her place as an active force in shaping the institution's future. She had proven that the monarchy could grow and evolve, with leadership that respected both its past and its people. The world had watched this transformation unfold, and the British monarchy, though changed, had emerged stronger and more relevant than ever. The monarchy was now seen as an institution that had adapted to the times, and with Catherine and William at its helm, it had found its new course. While the challenges of leadership were far from over, the monarchy's future seemed brighter than it had in years. The royal family had once again proven that despite the odds, it was capable of not only surviving, but thriving in a modern world. Catherine's quiet strength, her empathy, and her deep commitment to her family and the monarchy ensured that she was more than just a figurehead. She was the monarch's future,